Okay, so you think you know The Great Gatsby? Well, we're about to look at it from a completely different angle. We're going to see it from the inside, through the eyes of the one person who knew the whole thing was just a game.
And this quote? This is from our narrator, the sharp and cynical golfer Jordan Baker. And right from the jump, she is setting the tone. She is not apologizing for anything. Nope. She's basically telling us, I'm going to explain the rules of a world where you win by not flinching. And that word, careless? Oh, that's just what people call you to make themselves feel better about it all. All right. Section 1, The Girl Who Watched. So, get this out of your head right now. This isn't a story about good guys and bad guys. Not at all. It's about figuring out the unwritten rules of a really dangerous game. And our guide is the girl who learned to just sit back and watch every single move. And this right here is the first rule of the room. It's the core of how Jordan sees the world. Forget good people versus bad people. That's not real. For her, the world is split into two groups, and only two. The people who can afford the consequences of their actions, and everybody else who can't. This is how Jordan sees everyone else in the game. They're not really people, they're performers. Take Daisy, for example. She's perfected this thing Jordan calls decorative sadness. It's brilliant, really. She takes her unhappiness and wears it like a beautiful ribbon, you know? It's a performance to make her seem deep and generous, even when there's nothing really there. It costs her absolutely nothing.
Okay, next section, the parties were a tournament. Now, this whole idea of performance, it wasn't just about the people. It was the entire setting. You know those legendary Gatsby parties? Well, to Jordan, they weren't parties at all. Nope, they were something else.
She called it a tournament. Basically, a social battlefield with its own set of rules. You weren't there to have fun, you were there to compete. For attention, for a spot closer to the powerful people. And gossip? That wasn't just idle chat. It was a weapon, a way to get permission to move up. Getting dirt on someone? That was like intimacy, but with zero risk. And the biggest rule of all, never, ever ask to see the host. Why? Because if you have to ask, it means you don't belong there in the first place. So from this viewpoint, Gatsby wasn't some mysterious, generous host. No way. Jordan saw him as a man with a single, incredibly dangerous obsession. That famous green light, to her, it wasn't hope. It was just the target for a hunger so powerful, it was going to burn down every single room to get to it, including yours. All right, section 3, Daisy's beautiful cage. So we've talked about the obsession, but what about the object of that obsession? Well, Jordan's take on her own cousin, Daisy, is just as cold and clear. And Daisy plays her part perfectly. When she says this, I'm paralyzed with happiness, you have to understand that's not how she actually feels. It's a performance. She's putting on this show of being perfectly happy because that's what the world, especially the men who run it, expects from her. It's a beautiful role, sure, but it's also completely suffocated. But Jordan, she's not fooled. She sees right through the whole act. When everyone else looks at Daisy and calls her lucky, Jordan knows what they really mean. Even if they don't. They mean trapped. Trapped in a golden cage and getting praised for it. Which means her marriage, well, it was never about love. It was a purely calculated, strategic move to survive. She didn't marry Tom Buchanan for romance. She married him for what he represented. A fortress of money, a powerful name that was like a shield. It wasn't a love story. It was a business deal, a smart move in a world that just crushes women who try to make it on their own. Okay, next section, the real contest. Because this is where the game stops being about quiet moves and whispers. This is where it gets real. It turns into a direct, brutal fight, and all the masks finally come flying off. So picture this, that super tense scene at the Plaza Hotel. It's hot, everyone's on edge, and Daisy says this. I loved him once, but I loved you too. And you know what? It's probably the only truly honest thing she says in the whole book. But it's a truth that makes nobody happy. And for Gatsby, it's a kill shot. In that 1 second, his entire fantasy world just shatters. Because the one thing his dream couldn't handle was reality. Because when you get right down to it, this was never about love. It was about power. And Tom's old money inherited power just steamrolled Gatsby's brand new self-made persona. Tom didn't have to throw a punch. He won by simply pointing at the real world. And that was enough to destroy the only Daisy Gatsby ever really loved, the one that existed only in his head.
So now we get to the price of permission. After the dream is completely shattered, the game turns deadly. And what happens next? The final accounting? It's not a tragedy. It's a cold, hard business transaction.
I mean, just look at how it plays out. This isn't some passionate, tragic mistake. It's a purchase. Step 1, Daisy hits Myrtle. Step 2, Gatsby immediately says he'll take the blame. He makes the first offer. Step 3, Tom sees his opening and uses that to control the story, pointing the finger straight at Gatsby. And step 4, Daisy just lets it happen. She retreats back into her safe, wealthy world, allowing her safety to be bought with Gatsby's entire future. It's a done deal.
And if you need proof that this was a transaction, here it is. The most important sound in this whole story isn't the party music. It's not the laughter. It's not even the gunshot. It's the silence. The sound of the phone that never rang. Daisy not calling Gatsby wasn't her forgetting. It was her signature on the receipt. Payment complete. You know, the real tragedy wasn't even Gatsby's death. It was the crushing emptiness that came after. That empty funeral was the final balance sheet. It proved that all those parties, all those people, they were customers, not a community. His entire social world was an illusion, and with his death, the account was finally closed. Zero balance. Which brings us to our final section, Jordan's first truth. So this all leads to the final scene where Nick confronts Jordan. But instead of playing along one last time, she just stops. She throws out the rulebook and delivers her own final judgment. So Nick says this to her. He calls her careless, trying to stick her in the same box as Tom and Daisy. He's just trying to clean up the mess in his own head, right? Give everyone a simple label. But Jordan? Oh, she's not having it. She completely rejects it. Instead, she corrects him. And this is her first real unfiltered moment of truth in the entire story. She says, I wasn't careless. Careless sounds like an accident, like you didn't know what you were doing. No, she says she was practiced. She knew the game, she knew the rules, she was a willing player who understood exactly what was at stake. And then she says it. It's worse. And she's right. And that just leaves us with this question, doesn't it? What's actually worse? To be careless or to be practiced? I mean, who's really the worst person? The one who causes damage without thinking about it? Or the one who sees the potential damage, understands it completely, and plays along anyway? And in the end, this version of the story leaves us with Jordan's final, chilling thought. It's a powerful reminder about the real limits of the American dream, about the true cost of trying to belong. It tells us that some rooms, some worlds, can never be bought into. And some lights, no matter how much you want them to, no matter how long you stare, they don't promise a thing.